My name is Damon Brown. You're watching the Bring Your Worth show at bringyourworth.tv. Thank you for coming through. Shout out to y'all on LinkedIn. Shout out to y'all on YouTube at bringyourworth.tv. Shout out to y'all on all the different platforms, including on Amazon. Hello to you and all the other platforms, even y'all that are streaming on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I know some of y'all watching on Facebook, Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. I come to you every Wednesday and Sunday at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Vegas time, right here, not too far from the strip. If you want support as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur, I am one of you. I ended up selling my last startup a handful of years back while I was a stay-at-home dad with my wife and I's first little kid. It was around the time he turned 2. So shout out to y'all. It's such a process to learn the different ways that we can connect with each other, different ways that we can learn how to build from now. Shout out to my second to last book, and the different ways that we can create things. And I'd love to be part of that process for you. I have a new book coming out in less than a month, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. All the books that I've done, almost all the books that I've done over the past 7 years. Believe it or not, it's been about a book a year. So it's about 6, 7 books in here. My wife and I's youngest son, it was when he was about 6 months old that the first Bite Size Entrepreneur came out, which y'all made a bestseller. Thank you. And it's actually what ended up becoming the first in the Bring Your Worth series. He just turned 7 earlier this year. So that tells you how long y'all have been rocking with me and I've been rocking with you. So thank you. There's a gift to you. All my books in one place. You can avoid my ugly mug there. But the books right up there. Again, there's some best sellers in this joint. I wanted to have one capstone that just captured everything that we've been talking about. All the links are below. If you're watching on Amazon, then you can go ahead and check it out on the Amazon links. In case you missed it, yesterday was a great episode. I so enjoyed having a special day with y'all. It was 40 books to transform your life, and we had a Q&A. It was a lot of fun, and it was 40, believe it or not, it really was 40 books that I ended up highlighting. All the links are below. If you end up clicking this link, all the links are below in that video. Do not miss it. If you're trying to get your next year on earth right, definitely do not miss that episode. And my favorite recent show of the past, 3-4 weeks. I've been going live every single weekday with y'all. This is like episode 14 or 15. I lost count. We'll talk about that later of this month. It's only the 26th of September of 2023 as I'm recording this. Again, thanks for rocking with me. One of my favorite live episodes in this marathon of lives, understanding artist contracts. If you've coached with me, if you've read my books, even if you know me personally, we had a drink together, you know how much I love talking about intellectual property, artist rights, contracts, things of that nature, and how we can not only handle our business, but handle the business of the business. I get into all that in this live show. I think it's one of the most important shows or episodes that I've done in recent memories. Please do not let it pass you by, particularly if you're trying to get in the game, have a little bit more control over your intellectual property. Even if you're not sure what intellectual property is, tune in, check it out. And tomorrow, I'm getting a little misty-eyed. Tomorrow is the final live of the month. It is about how to publish your book independently, step by step. This was done independently with an independent editor, independent cover designer, and an independent author who owns his independent publishing company. I pull back the curtains and break it down step by step how you can get your book from an idea to actually having it available independently. Really important episode. I wanted to end on this note just because it's something we got to talk about. Again, it's been a fantastic month here in the States. We had Labor Day, and that was usually the first weekend of September. We'll have that Monday off. And then I started, I think, the lives at Tuesday or Wednesday. So I've been coming live to y'all. Again, you can tell me in the comments if you want. I can't even keep track anymore. But I think it's like the 20th live of the month, 18th. Again, still trying to figure it out. I'm going to show some info, though, that you guys might get a chuckle out of because of all the researching and strategy that goes behind the scenes if you're going to go live on the air darn near every single day. But thank you for supporting it. Thank you for giving that love. And yeah, looks like you guys have some issues on LinkedIn. So hopefully you can see me on there. If you're having issues on LinkedIn and the stream coming through, because I think there's some tech issues, maybe with the weather. The weather's kind of weird here in Vegas. Feel free to come over to bringyourworth.tv. You can watch the rest of the episode. Of course, you can always watch the restream or the replay if you're watching in the future. Anyway, tomorrow, Wednesday, 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Do not miss the final live episode of this amazing month of live episodes. All right, so today we are talking about how to organize your thoughts with AI and more. One of the biggest questions I get when I'm on a podcast, when I'm coaching someone, when I'm doing a keynote, and we have the Q&A afterwards, is how do you kind of keep your stuff together? If you could see some of the stuff on my desk, I'm still fresh from yesterday's episode where I went through 40 books. So there's a lot of stuff going on here behind the curtain on the outside of the screen. One of the questions I get all the time is how am I able to manage all these different projects? Now I have a wonderful family that gives lots of support, lots of love. I've had lots of good mentorship that has got me to this point. That's my 27th book is about to come out. I give all that glory to the people that have helped me along the way. That said, I think it's also important to have the right tools in your toolbox. If you're familiar with the show, if you've coached with me, you know I talk about toolboxes a lot. If you end up leaving a job, if you end up leaving a relationship, if there's a certain situation that you end up not being a part of anymore, by your choice or not by your choice, you take your toolbox with you. In other words, the insights, the skills, in some cases, the literal tools that help you thrive, you take those with you. And I'm mostly talking about mental and emotional, in some cases, physical. What tools you have will determine, I would argue, what kind of level you're able to have success in personally and professionally. So today, I'm going to talk about a couple AI tools that are relatively new that I really rock with, some old school tools, as we used to say, that will help you get to the next level, and also some books that will help you on your way so you can think about how you can organize your thoughts. As I said in a keynote many, many years ago, I think it was a journalism keynote. Shout out to my fellow journalists. The average creative worth their salt has about 5 new ideas by the time they hit the shower in the morning. That's not to say that there's nothing wrong with if you don't have 5 ideas by the time the shower water hits. It's more like your ideas are common and we all have ideas. The real success comes in organizing them and executing them. You'll see that pattern with this show. If you're new to the show, welcome. This is the vibe here. Be sure and check out the older episodes too, including the ones that I just linked to before. All right, so let's get into it. If you have any questions as far as how you're trying to organize your thoughts, organize your mind, get your stuff together, try not to curse today, trying to keep it PC or PG at least, then please throw something in the comments. Let me know how I can support. All right, so the first question, only 2 questions today, but it's a lot of material. The best tech to organize my ideas. I get this question, like I said, a lot, mostly because my background, some of it is technology. I sold my last startup. It was a tech startup. And also because, again, I do so many different things. And, you know, my wife and I's kids are 10 and 7. So we're still kind of in that thick of things where they need us a lot. How do you organize all those different things? My favorite recommendation, in fact, one of my favorite, I should say, they're all my favorite. Otherwise, I wouldn't share them. I'm being silly now. Is Trello. Trello is actually relatively old school. Trello helped me and my 2 co-founders keep our stuff together when we rolled our startup to the #1 app twice back in 2014, 2015. That's how far back Trello goes. And that organization helped lead us to get the app to be acquired in 2015. What I love about Trello, it's a couple different things. Let me get an overall description. Trello allows you to quickly organize things into lists. So if you think of like to-do lists, it could be a to-do list or it could just be a list. You can organize the list in 2 different lists. So they come out as columns. Once you see the columns, then you can rearrange the columns, but it's all in the app, which makes it a lot easier, right? So that's number 2. or sorry, that's number one, is how it's organized. The benefits of that is number one, you can break down how you organize the list as far as checking things off. So you can have check boxes, you can move one item to another item. You can get into, I'm going to get nerdy for a second with technology. You can even do nested loops or nested, and the average person would call them like an outline. So the old school outline that you might have done like in at university or in college or even in high school, where you have the first ones, and I think it's the Roman numerals, and then you go a little bit deeper, and then it's uppercase letters. You go a little bit deeper, and then it's numbered a little bit deeper, and I think it's the lowercase letters. If I remember correctly, again, you can correct me in the comments. You could set it up like that. Trello works really well for us because we were a remote startup with my last startup, Cuddler. I was based in San Diego. My main collaborator was based, I want to say in Bath, but in the UK. And then our other collaborator was based in either Toronto or in Montreal. I want to say Montreal. And so we were on all kinds of different time zones. In fact, I talk about that in the Bites Entrepreneur, which is also included in here, where I would get up at 3:15 in the morning and work from 3:15 to 4 a.m. And at 4 a.m. most every day, I would have lunch, quote unquote, 4 a.m. my time in San Diego with my main collaborator, who again was based in Bath or the greater UK. Because it was 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock his time. Think about it, it's like 8-9 hour difference. We were able to organize those things. Number one, thank God for Skype or Zoom. I can't remember what we used at the time. I want to say Skype, because Zoom, I don't think was popping quite yet in 2015, 2014. But also, we were able to use Trello because we were able to quickly organize things, and it was totally asynchronous. Be sure and check out the link. This link will actually give you, I want to say, a month free of their higher plan. Frankly, a lot of the work that we did was actually in their free plan. Excuse me, it was either their free plan or their very low cost plan. It's super straightforward, really easy to use. I also love their app too, because we were using it on the computer. But then when I started traveling more and doing a lot more as a co-founder of Cuddler, then I was actually able to get onto my iPhone. I'm guessing it's on Android as well. Everything's below. It's one of my favorite apps, period. It works really well. And again, it's really affordable. So if you're bootstrapping, as we were with my first solo startup, as well as, again, Cuddler, the co-foundership that I did, if you're bootstrapping, then you definitely want to check out Trello. If you want to organize, again, your dispersed workforce, this is well before the pandemic. So I'm sure a lot more of y'all are dispersed. we're doing the virtual stuff before the mask. And so now it's even more valuable. Do not sleep on Trello. It's a fantastic opportunity. Another one, I was just talking to a coaching client about it recently, and I remember hearing about it a few years back, and they've blossomed, they've bloomed. Otter AI, which as it implies is AI, does one simple thing really, really well, has a bunch of features. The best feature, it will automatically transcribe whatever you're saying. Otter AI will automatically transcribe whatever you're saying. So I learned about it when I was speaking at conferences or when I was attending conferences. And then they're like, hey, if you want the captions to this, just click on this for Otter AI. And I was like, what's that? And I click on it. And as I'm speaking or as I'm watching someone else speak and I want to see the captions, sometimes our family do the captions because everyone's hearing's at a different level. And, sometimes the kids are talking, you know what I mean? Sometimes that's the vibe. Sometimes you're in a noisy area. So I love captions. Shout out to the people that rely on captions. I try to make sure as much as possible I caption in many different languages the stuff you see on bringyourworth.tv. Trying to support y'all for all the different abilities that we have. Soapbox aside, really important point, but soapbox aside, Otter AI, now it's set up, which is why I'm giving you the info on it, the goods, is that now it's set up so that it ties into, similar to Zapier, if you're on the tech side and you're used to doing that, or other types of platforms like Slack, it will actually start to communicate with the different apps you use. Good example of this. I do usually do my coaching calls like on Zoom or on Skype or sometimes on FaceTime, whatever my clients need, sometimes over the phone. If I'm having a coaching call, I can tie Otter AI to my Zoom account. And then as soon as the coaching call is done, then it'll go and say, okay, this is a conversation with Damon and so, and it'll all be transcribed. Now, if you've coached with me, if you want to learn more about my coaching, just go to damonbrown.net or click the links below. When I coach with someone, I usually give them, we have a coaching session and I give them like resources and or a package with breaking down like, this is what we talked about. These are your call to actions. We call them CTAs, right? These are your call to actions. These are your concerns. These are the things we talked about. Just kind of like an overview post-mortem of that particular session we had. And if we have multiple sessions, then it becomes like a catalog for you to lean on. Even if we don't coach in the future, you'll have that resource forever, right? This takes it to a whole nother level. So that's just one aspect, two aspects. Number one, me as a public speaker. And if you're doing public speaking or stuff like that, have your stuff automatically transcribed so that everyone can be involved, not just the people that are of strong hearing. That's a plus. Number two, you have the opportunity to use AI in your particular work or practice. In my case, I have a coaching practice. So now I can automatically transcribe the many, I have coaching sessions that are 45 minutes long. So it's like 45 minutes, which usually about 6,000 words, maybe a little bit more, maybe 8,000 words, depending how fast we talk. I'm from Jersey, so I talk fast. But ends up being 6,000 words. They're all transcribed by AI. The third thing here, which I think is really important, and that's one of the recent conversations I had, is that Otter AI gives you the opportunity to get your thoughts down without having to transcribe them. And if you think about, I'm middle-aged, so if you think about if you're of my generation, like young Gen X or older, when people had the commute and they were driving somewhere, and I'm thinking of like LA out here out west, and folks will have like the tape recorder and they're like, when I get to the office, this such and such and such. Watch some of the old school movies from the 80s and 90s. You'll see a lot of that. People stuck in traffic, and it'll probably be usually a guy, unfortunately, but things become more equitable. But it'll be a business guy, and he's like, when I get to the office, I'll have Susan do blah, 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 whatever. Or this is the memo I'm going to write to my client as soon as I get there, because we didn't have cell phones at the time, right? Believe it or not. This is that energy to a whole different level. And so now you're able to go and say, oh, I have this idea that I want to get down. Why don't I open up? Otter AI has an app now too, which again, this is all new stuff. I was the old wave of Otter AI a couple years ago. It has a new app, new to me at least, a new app. And you can go ahead and just speak into the app and it'll transcribe it for you. My background is journalism, 2 degrees in journalism, master's in magazine publishing. I am a writing nerd. I'm that muscle is like super heavy in me where I have a big idea and I'll write it down. Other people though, perhaps like yourself, are trained in a different way. Perhaps you're used to speaking whatever you have to say, but not writing it down. Sometimes you have big ideas, but then your memory might not be that good. I have my issues too, so I'm not judging you. Your memory might not be that good. And then suddenly it goes away and you're like, oh, what did I say? Otter AI. Just literally say it, and then it will capture it. And I believe it also has translation functions. This is a referral link. Most of these are, which means that I get support for the channel, but more importantly, you get support as far as getting special bonuses. I think with this currently, it actually allows you to, I think you get a month free. I try not to say these out loud because some of y'all are watching the replays like in the future. You're like, Damon, where's the hookup? As of right now, September 26th, 2023, the hookup is there. So be sure and check it out. Again, I'm gushing over it because Otter AI was a lot more focused. See my shirt? It was a lot more focused a few years ago. And then I came back to it in recent weeks and I'm like, oh, whoa, you've stepped up. And it's very much of this energy and of this generation. Shout out to y'all. It's fantastic. I can't argue more for it. All right. And one that I've talked about quite a bit over the last summer is Notion. Again, folks of my generation, or if you're doing startups about a decade ago, then you've heard of something called Evernote. Evernote, excuse me, Evernote allows you to grab what they would call mixed media. So you find a website. Okay, well, you can put the link in there and the website is captured in there, just the text if you want it. And then you might see an app. So you find the link for the app and then the info on the app is captured in there. You might see a picture online or a GIF. You drag that in there. All those mixed media are captured and organized in that. Evernote was the app for that for years. Then they changed their model. They had business model issues. I think they had some liquidity issues. And I'm not even sure if they're around anymore. Sorry, guys, but some startups don't make it. I don't know if they're still around. If they are around, I think they got acquired, and then there's some funny stuff going on there. A lot of people that were on Evernote have moved over to Notion. Notion has this AI setup that will help you organize your different thoughts and ideas. Again, one of the motivations for doing this episode, but organizing your mind with AI. It also has those traditional features that, again, the more old school folks like myself who remember Evernote, it has that kind of functionality too. So you could be in a particular tab, you pull tab as far as in your on the web browser, you pull that in, it'll hook it up. It might even be able to translate it for you and all these different things. So look at it. Again, if you're familiar with Evernote, look at this as a souped up version of that. It's also really good with collaborations, which is how I've been talking about a lot over the summer. If you're doing the startup thing, when it comes to organizing your mind, sometimes it's not just your mind. Sometimes, again, I've co-founded startups where it was 3 people. So you got to have a collective mind, a hive mind in a good way. This can help you organize all those different things. Are there apps that I'm missing? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of the apps that I suggested, and just other things that you think would hit really well. One of my favorite books, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the big ideas that you have, is called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. One of the reasons why I have my Focus shirt on. One of my favorite books. Oh, I do have it here. I wasn't kidding with y'all. Like I got like half of my 40 books still here. Essentialism, fantastic book, fantastic. What I love about this book is that there's one line in there that I say all the time. Again, if you coach with me, you've heard it from my mouth. And that is, if you prioritize everything, then nothing is a priority. If you prioritize everything, then nothing is a priority. One of the biggest gifts you can give yourself, you can give to the people that you serve, perhaps even give to the people that you love, if you're driving them up the wall, is to figure out what those top, say three is a good number, those top 3 priorities are. I know for myself, it's my personal health, it's the health and wealth of my family, and it's serving y'all with the businesses, including this TV show, Bring Your Worth TV, that I create. Those are my 3 priorities. And depending on what's going on, they sometimes shift a little bit. Like my kids were sick last week. They had a cold. They're back at school. If you got kids in school, you know the deal. The first couple of weeks, they're bringing home everything. I don't know if they're licking the tiles there or whatever, but every kid brings home like some type of cold. So last week, even though I was hanging out with y'all, my big priority was taking care of my sick kids who were throwing up a little bit and stuff like that. Make sure they were good. In some cases, as I've had sinus issues and other things, as I've talked about on the live show, then sometimes my health has to become the priority. That's why I have episodes where I talk about taking naps and resting and finding balance. It's not just me trying to philosophize, I think that's the word, me trying to philosophize about what you should do. It's more because of the hard knocks that I've had in figuring things out. And of course, in some cases, as with, I don't know, I decided to come live with y'all every weekday this month. And sometimes at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time, during the weekdays, y'all are the priority. It's not saying that you have to have the same fixed priorities. That's my point. What I love about this discussion is saying you have to be conscious about what your priorities are. That's it. That's the big argument of this book. Because you could say your priority is this, that, and the third, but if it's not actually your priority, that will come across in your actions and they end up being scattered. If my kid is puking right now, then I'm not hanging out with y'all. I'll be like, sorry, there's no live show today. That's called a priority. And so you have to make those decisions. And frankly, this year and some other years too, but even this year for me, sometimes those priorities come in conflict. essentialism talks about what to do when you're in those situations. I bring this up because organizing your mind isn't just about having a filing system, it's also about creating an environment where you know really quickly how and when you are going to prioritize something. So again, if my kids are sick, I'm not hanging out with y'all. Sorry. you know, but if I have a coaching client and my kids are okay, then I'm hanging out with y'all 100%. Those are priorities. Essentialism is basically saying, what is the main way that I'm going to live my life? What am I prioritizing in my life? And how can I design my life to keep it at the top? That's the best way I can describe it. Just grab the book. Fantastic book, one of my favorites. Live Q&A, handful of months ago. Smart AI tools for creators 2023. There's a whole nother set of tools that I talk about in that episode. Be sure and check it out. If you're like, no, Damon, I'm fine. I'll buy Essentialism, but I need some AI in this. This is the episode. It also links to another episode where I talk about how I've used AI to refurbish my books, to make animations, and I am not an animator. Shout out to my elders who are artists. Again, the gift did not come to me that way. I'm good with the words. I'm not so good with the pen to paper, drawing things. That's just not my vibe. I certainly try, but it's not my vibe. If you're also in that camp and you can barely draw a stick figure, be sure to check out this episode. Sometimes drawing things quite literally will help you get to where you need to be. And AI can help you organize your mind so that you can draw a better conclusion. Sorry for the double entendre. when it comes to using the best tech to organize your ideas, also check out Get Organized Now. It's actually an episode just from a few weeks ago. In fact, it's one of the first lives I did this month as part of this marathon. And it was really well received. And y'all seem to like having like a behind the curtain, behind the camera, or whatever you want to call it, breaking down how I actually organize different things. So today we're talking about things to organize your mind, particularly your ideas. That episode is literally about organizing your office, organizing the data, like very practical. Again, I appreciate all the feedback that y'all gave during that episode, even with the replays, because I'd love to know what support you guys needed. And evidently you guys need some office support, as I often need. So again, I told you my desk is a mess after having that 40 books in 45 minutes yesterday. If you're curious about that, be sure and check out the link below. And yeah, what tech tools are you guys using to keep things in order? It's the Bring Your Worst show every Wednesday and Sunday, 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Subscribe for free. And today, we're organizing our thoughts using AI and more. Let's get to the and more stuff. The best old school methods to organize my thoughts. Ooh, I love old school methods. I have, as I said, 2 degrees in journalism, but those degrees, one was in Detroit, shout out to Oakland University, and my second one was at Northwestern, shout out to Chicago, and it's suburb Evanston. So the folks that I learned from were the old dogs. Rest in peace to some of them, but I think they would respect that I call them old dogs. So they are old school. So I'm not a spring chicken, and I was a spring chicken when these folks who are older than I am now were schooling me on newspapers, on magazines, on how things worked at the Chicago Tribune or the Detroit Free Press or the Daily News and et cetera. The Chicago Reader, like I can go on and on, like so much game. The reason why I bring this up is that as I got more into technology, as a lot of people of my generation have gotten into technology and doing our startups and stuff, my basic aesthetic, even back to when I was, around the age of my kids and a little bit older, all through high school, my aesthetic was very old school. What's great is that you end up having value for both the old school and the new school. I give this preface because I have as much technology as I talk about on this show. There's something about pen to paper, something about the physical. I'll get into all this different stuff. There's about 4 or 5 things that I think will help you get to the next level that are old school as hell. That is my longest preface ever, but I want to make sure I gave some context because this stuff is good. You know the vibes. Oxford, got to get the Oxford brand. Don't get cheap on it. Oxford brand 3x5 index cards. They come in a pack of 300 or 500. I think the links below. It's 500, whatever works for you. These are perfect. I got my to-do list. If you pause the video, you can see it really quickly. My to-do list on it today. Talk about organizing my mind. I got all these different tools. Shout out to the tools I use. Most of y'all, I still end up falling back on this joint. There's something that's permanent and beautiful about this. Oh, see, all right. Let me get my stuff together. Okay, Oxford ruled cards, 100 count, but this 100 count actually is a box of 5. So I got the 500 joint. I got them right under me, basically right under my feet, where my kids play at, where some of their toys are at too. This is my joint. What's fantastic about this, and I will give a link where I talk about this even more, they work well because they can't get corrupt based on some hard drive failure. I've been there, done that, talked about that in previous episodes. We're not going to relive that trauma. Number 2, you can do it anywhere. You don't need a Wi-Fi connection. You don't need a plug. You don't need a hotspot. You don't need to charge up your stuff. You don't need to put it away when they say the cabin is closed now when you're going on the plane. Like, it's not going to make typing noises. It's just you and your microphone, as they used to say in hip hop. That's it. Highly recommend it. If you want to get organized, sometimes you got to go back to the basics. If you want to learn more about this, my second TED Talk, my first TEDx talk, shout out to TEDx Jackson, to David, and all the wonderful folks down in Jackson, Mississippi. Hope you are doing wonderful. They invited me down. This is only like 3-4 months after I did a TED Talk at the main TED conference at second stage of that over in Whistler, Canada. So I was fresh. You'll see a lot less gray hairs in the video too. But it's a short video talking about big ideas on little pieces of paper. I did a whole freaking TED Talk about 10 minutes long about index cards. Understand their power, respect their power. We can have all the AI in the world. We can have the newest technology. I'm sure by the time my kids are grown, there's going to be holograms. There's already a hologram of Tupac that was dancing around Coachella a few years ago. Rest in peace. So it's already happening now. This still has a place. If you want to get an entertaining TED Talk, be sure and check it out. Click on the link. All right. This joint. This was me stepping up my game. The Aulux, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly because I've never said it out loud. I've just seen the brand. The Aulux Deluxe Eraser Whiteboard 6x12. Number 1, I got a coupon for it, which I rarely have coupons. You know, I don't do coupons. I've had whole videos about it. Check out my video, why you need to raise your rates every year. You know, I don't play with the coupons. This isn't my coupon, though. This is my coupon, but it's a coupon for the brand. But I'm sharing it with y'all. It ain't my coupon, trust me. This is the first purchase I made when I decided a handful of weeks ago to say, with the Bring Your Worth TV show, I'm going to go live every single work day in the month of September. My first purchase was this. This is actually a smaller version of the joint that I'm sharing with y'all right now. This one is, oh man, I forget how big this is, but it's definitely smaller. Like it's, you know, as you can tell, it's probably, because the joint that I'm sharing with y'all is 16x12. This is probably 12x8, 8x11. It might be, I think it's a little bit bigger than 8x11, which is about the size of a card. Of legal pads. See, you can tell I'm a writer. I know the size of legal pads and regular paper. I think legal pads are actually 14 inches, and then regular paper, when you have the notebooks, are around 8.5 by 11. magazine publishing, all the nerdiness just comes out immediately. But you can see, this is actually my plan. We're having a meta moment here. No Mark Zuckerberg. This is my plan for this month. I was planning 19 episodes, the 5th through the 30th. Obviously, the plans changed because the last episode, don't miss it, is tomorrow, which I believe is the 27th, because we ended up cutting it short just because it felt better, because I usually have lives on Wednesday. So the last live will be on Wednesday. But I started around the 5th, again, back to Labor Day. And then shorts from it, if you subscribe, you know the shorts I'm talking about. Clips, there's a clips section, all that stuff. Like, all this stuff is broken down. So when folks ask me, okay, you're going to go live every single day through every single workday through September, how's that even going to work? Well, I worked it out, and you see it gets messier and messier towards the end. It's almost like it's like The Shining or something else. Any like, remember, the main character in The Shining was a writer, so keep that in mind as as you listen to me. And it's like any type of writer or some type of scientist where, like, there's stuff on the chalkboard looks really good, and a dull Jack makes a whatever it is. I forget what it's called. You can put it in the comments, whatever the line was from The Shining. And as Jack Nicholson's character keeps typing, or as the person slowly loses their mind, this is what it's like to go live every single workday in the course of a month. This is what happens, just to warn you, right? But I don't mind giving you the sauce, because I think it's really important to know that you're going to organize things in a certain way. This isn't magic. I'm pretty good with words. I'm fine with improv, and shout out to the real improvers that I know, including the comedians that I know. But I'm fine with improv and shooting from the hip and all those things. I'm comfortable with that. I've worked that muscle. Even for me, I got a plan. This was my plan. This is actually just part of it. This was the plan. Because I had that strategy, two things happened. The first thing is that I didn't have to worry about what I was going to do from day to day. I knew how many episodes I wanted to do. I plan on doing 19. I think it's going to end up being about 17 or 18, which ended up being great. Ended up being more episodes in there too, what I was planning on doing. So it ended up evening out. So I didn't have to stress every single day, like, am I going to go live today or not? It's like, no, I'm going to go live every single workday. And I'll have a couple rerun episodes or marathons to put that in there, so I get a little bit of a break, or if I got stuff going on with my kids, right? Makes sense. The second part of it, though, is that actually gave me the freedom to create more things. So about a week and a half ago, you can check out the link below. I had a great conversation with James Oliver, the founder of the Parentpreneur Foundation and the co-founder and CEO of Kabila, which is an app that allows co-founders to find each other. Again, all the links are below, or you can go to bringyourworth.tv and check out the episode there in the playlist. There's about 8 episodes ago. We already having a conversation about doing something. And then I think it was on Friday, like Friday before last, he was like, did you want to do this like live, like on my platform, like on my LinkedIn and stuff? I was like, sure. And it's like, okay, we'll do that on Monday. And I was like, well, why don't you just do it at the same time that I always connect with y'all? 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Why don't we just do that on Monday for my live show? It's like, bet. So ended up becoming this collaboration. That, and then that Monday, which was a week and a half ago, was there. That collaboration is not on this whiteboard. But because I had the whiteboard, I was able to know and say, you know what? I am going to do a live show on Monday. Why don't you just come through to my show, and then we'll do a collaboration, and then we'll get more eyes on it. We'll talk about it. They'll learn about you and my audience, vice versa. Let's go. So in a sense, creating structure is freedom. Creating structure is freedom. As I've talked about in previous episodes, as a creative, it took me a long time to realize that. In fact, I still struggle with that sometimes. But darn right, in late August, when I knew I was going to be coming to y'all every single weekday in September, this was literally my first purchase. You can look at my purchase history for real. The one regret that I had with getting this, it's not really a regret, but I was being conservative, is that I was trying to save money. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if the whitebird, I know what a whitebird is. I don't know if the whiteboard's going to work for me. So let me get a small one. This is actually the kitty size. It's a different brand. It's okay. I think I prefer the Allux brand, but I was like, let me just get the smaller one. And with my huge handwriting, as you can see, the Descent into Madness right in the corner. My whole point is that I'm recommending this one for y'all. Number one, because it's a stronger brand. To be frank, I think the one there is a little bit nicer than the one I got on the cheap. But then the second part of it is that it's of a size that you can actually strategize on it. This one, I think it's literally made for kids. Like you see the little thing on the side, just because I'm a grown man. But I was like, you know what? Let me go and try it and see. And now I'm excited to upgrade into a bigger size. I'm recommending this size. I think this coupons, if you're watching this live, I think the coupon is going to be good for, I think, about a month. So I think going towards Halloween, if you're watching this live, so about a month, month and a half from now, be sure and check it out. It's already a good deal, and the coupons on top of it, I highly recommend. Get yourself a whiteboard. Doesn't have to be this one. This one looks good. Doesn't have to be this one, though. But get yourself a whiteboard. It'll help you organize your thoughts. Quick sidebar for when I was in Silicon Valley about 15 years ago, and my friends were doing startups, stuff like that. It was before I even got into the entrepreneurship game, which happened many years later. And they would have whiteboards, yeah, but they would also, like, if they had a balcony, they would just be writing on the sliding door because it's glass, and they just have the erasable mark and they just go right on there because they had so many ideas that like 10, 15, 100 employees, wherever they were scaling to at the time, and they had to keep all that together. So this game isn't just me saying, hey, you should get a whiteboard. This is like the stuff that those startups, which are household names now, me seeing the origins of them 15 years ago, they were rocking the whiteboards. So if these tech leaders now were rocking with the whiteboard that got them to where they need to be, getting a dry erase board or a whiteboard is what you should be doing. Again, we're talking about ways to organize your mind. Best self journal. Another coupon. I got you with the coupons today. I'm taking care of you. I am a journal guy. This is a small journal that I got right there. I think I got some journals up here. I got journals underneath my desk. I got probably about 20, 30, let's say 24 journals. And about half of them are filled. Some of them are waiting for the thing. The thing about journals, it's twofold. Number one, this journal is structured similar to like the bullet journal, if you've heard of that and things like that. It's structured similar to that. It's actually a new cut on the blog as far as I can tell. Excuse me. And it looks pretty good. It's I don't think it's leather bound, but it's a nice setup. It's organized to help you organize your thoughts, and as a byproduct of that, to help with your mental health. Here's the key thing with this. Journals actually matter for a couple different reasons. The first reason is the one that we grew up with, right? Where it's like, oh, you should journal your thoughts. Fantastic. I do that too, particularly when I have big emotions or big feelings. I'm a writer. The writing is going to come out. It's going to come out somehow, right? So it's like that expression is native to me. So perhaps you've had a diary or a journal, whatever you want to call it. They're super handy, really good with your mental health. The other side of it, though, because we are talking business, this is the Bring Your Worth show, is your ideas are gold. I talked about that in the artist contract episode, which the link is below, but I also mentioned it in the chat. So I think I can scroll back up and click, or you can scroll back up. I'm not going to scroll back up, but you can scroll back up and see the chat where I talk about artist contracts. I think that was episode on Friday. Your ideas are fantastic, but the results, the output, the execution of it helps get it to the next level. That's what helps it get to the next level. But without you executing, without you having those original ideas, you can't execute them. Journals like this one, there actually is stuff in this journal, which is why I'm keeping it tight, but it's more of a business journal with my big ideas. Going back a few, and I mentioned this in previous episodes, I have this, what we would call a recipe holder, which in the old school days, you would have an index card or some type of card that's about like 3x5. And particularly like you think of like grandmothers will write down family recipes and then put them in this kind of box. This is a box of my ideas, right? If you saw the movie Elf and the guy has the journal with all the different ideas, right? The same type of thing, except way less organized. Speaking of organization. but it's all here. Otherwise, there will be index cards all over the place. There will be journals all over the place with all these ideas scattered. Instead, they're organized in a certain way where if I need a new idea, if I'm asked to do a keynote and they ask me what topic I want to cover, I can pull something out of this. If I want to do a new keynote, because I have set keynotes, but if I want to do a new keynote, I can pull something out. If my coaching client's dealing with something and I'm like, I feel like I have an idea related to this, like a certain book or whatever, then I'm able to pull it out and be like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and do that. Like there's such a great opportunity to build and connect those big ideas over time. When I talked with James the other day about how I built up the YouTube community at bringyourworth.tv from a few hundred people to the 18,000 or so, close to 19,000 now, closer to 18,000 now that you are connecting with me. One of the things I said was the biggest benefit was time. It's almost like compound interest. So a lot of y'all came because I kept showing up, usually every Sunday and every Wednesday at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. And this is episode number 352, I believe, that you're watching right now. So 351 times before this, I hung out with y'all. Over time, that starts to build up. Trust starts to build up, and a natural momentum starts to build up. And eventually things start to move. Same thing with your ideas. If you're not organizing your ideas in some type of journal, in some type of index cards, again, all the links are below, then those ideas are just floating. I talk with my kids about this all the time, where they'll have, you think of a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old and their imagination, their big ideas. I'm like, that sounds fantastic. Why don't you write it down? Or why don't you draw it? Find some way to capture it. Particularly when we're younger, we tend to think that our ideas will always be in our brain. But particularly as we get older, as I'm learning, those ideas start to slip away. And some of those ideas are gold. And there might be one day when you have a TV show and you're coming up with show ideas, or there's new ways you want to support people, or there's certain situations that you're in. And there might have been an idea that you had, say, 10 years ago. And unless you wrote it down or sat it down or drew it or something, that baby's gone. These ideas go back about 20 years. So these ideas, barring a fire, knock on wood, these ideas aren't going anywhere. There's also ways to capture ideas with AI, like I said, with Notion, with Otter AI, and so forth, to kind of do a double court or a full court press. Tell I don't play basketball that much. Full court press on where your ideas are going to be. But journals, index cards are always fantastic. All right. If you want to go a little bit deeper, one of my favorite books, I forgot to add it to Amazon, but you can go ahead and find the link below if you're watching on Amazon, or just go to bringyourworth.tv. My apologies for that. Is one of my favorite books, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I have an audiobook of it, so I don't have a physical copy, but the physical copy is great too. I just happen to listen to the audiobook. This book is so fantastic. It talks about the ways that we limit ourselves. He calls it an upper limit problem. In other words, the ways that we sabotage ourselves when we're about to get that so-called success, and why we have to go deeper into our emotional intelligence, into our trauma. That's why I love the work of Brene Brown, who came a little bit later after, because this book is about 20 years old. She really came to stardom after this, but she fits right into that discussion. That's why it's so important to figure out what's eating Gilbert Grape, right? Like what's bothering you? Why are you motivated in a particular way? With this being a special week for me, I've been so reflective and had so many intense conversations with people that I love and people that love me, as far as I want to get to this next level. Why am I not doing it? And or why am I obsessed with getting to the next level? You know who you are. Thank you for all the love and support and conversations we've had. But those deep conversations are necessary. The reason why I bring this up during the discussion about organizing your mind is that if you're playing small, number one, then you're not going to be able to organize your mind and reach your full potential as far as who you can be, which is what the big argument of the book is. The second layer, and I told you it's a deep book, which a lot of people pull from it, is after the upper limit problem, there's also the discussion about your zone of genius and your zone of competency. Your zone of competency, and it's like 4 zones, but 2 zones are important to this conversation. Your zone of competency is the stuff that you're pretty good at. You can get by on it. You'll get paid for it, but it's not that special thing that only you can do. Your zone of genius, as you might have guessed, is pretty much the opposite, where it's that stuff that only you can do. It's that high level stuff. Bring Your Worth TV feels like my high level zone of genius conversation, or at least attempt to tap into that with y'all. It's something that I feel good about. It's something that y'all have, again, 18,000 of y'all have said, yes, Damon, keep doing it. This is part of my zone of genius. Me doing certain other things, I could do them, but they're not in the zone of genius or in the zone of competency. If you're able to organize your ideas, organize your mind in a certain way, then you can get further out of the zone of competency and more into your zone of genius. Now, just to be clear, and Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert is a great conversation that talks about this. One of my favorite books of all time. It's one of the books that was mentioned in the episode yesterday about the 40 books. The link is in there. So watch yesterday's episode. I have a link below. Sometimes your zone of genius is not how you make a living. Sometimes your zone of genius is not how you make a living. But your zone of genius will be and can be how you make a true impact in the world. If you don't have your thoughts organized or your mind organized, then it's much easier to say, I'm overwhelmed. Let me slide into the zone of competency. But that's not really where you're supposed to be as far as making an impact on the world. Organizing your mind, it sounds like it's just let me get my mind right and let me figure out what I'm going to do next. It's not. It's actually much deeper than that. Gay Hendricks is way more articulate about it than I am during this episode. Again, it's an entire book. It's a fantastic book. Again, I have the audiobook. It helped me through some rough times, even helping me now as I look to level up with y'all. So shout out to Gay Hendricks. He has another book called, I think it's called Make Your Own Luck, something related to luck. Shout it out in the comments if you know the name of it. I have not gotten it yet. Sometimes you have an artist, shout out to Nas. He just turned 50. You have an artist like Nas or who's a rapper, or you have another artist, think of like Joni Mitchell, and they have their Illmatic, they have their Blue for Gangstar, which was another rap group I was really into. Rest in peace to Guru, one of the members, when they did Daily Operation many decades ago. There are certain artists or creations, even me in some cases, for the Bites Entrepreneur, which brought a lot of you here, and that came out almost 7 years ago. Sometimes people will create something and then it makes so much of an impact, or they're so associated with it that people aren't moving on to the next thing. Gay Hendricks has that joy because this book, again, came out like 2 decades ago. When I got into it around the time that my first son was born, I was late to it. My son just turned 10. So this has been around for a while. This is what he's known for. But he has a new book about luck. I heard it's great. But I'm still in love with the first book. Shout out to Dr. Hendricks, because he is a doctor. So he knows what he says when it comes to the psychology. How to organize your life right now. It talks about priorities. In fact, it's a flashback to essentialism, as well as another key book, which I won't even mention here, but just check out the episode. Super short episode, one of my first Bring Your Worth episodes, one of my favorites. If you're feeling overwhelmed with all the stuff you got to do. And again, you got my sympathy. I get it. It's been an intense couple of weeks for me. Part of it because I've been showing up for y'all every single work day. And on that note, got a tear in my eye. Tomorrow is the final live of the month. Publish your book independently, a step by step. I'm giving y'all the goods. I have several books under Bring Your Worth Publishing. A couple of those joints are bestsellers. I'm not here to play around with y'all. I'm trying to give y'all as much insight and game as possible this month. This has been such a fun run. Every single weekday, I've been connecting with y'all through this month. Tomorrow will be the final live of this marathon. I'm going to go ahead and have some throat coat, which if you've been watching, you know exactly what that is. I'm going to chill out with my family. I'm going to get some other work done because Bring Your Worth TV is not my only thing, but it's been such a pleasure connecting with y'all. Tomorrow, it is goodbye for now. We're going to go ahead and check it out as far as how to independently publish your book. And then we'll be back to our normal schedule. It'll be Wednesdays and Sundays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. If you want to make sure you don't miss tomorrow's episode, or when we go back to our regularly scheduled program of Wednesdays and Sundays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, be sure to subscription, blah, blah. You can subscribe for free. That's what I'm trying to say. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just to make that clear. If you're watching on Amazon, you can go ahead and hit the follow button and follow me on there. On Amazon, though, you're only going to be catching the lives, and the lives are usually Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. If you want to catch all the episodes, including the pre-recorded episodes and the bonus episodes, you want to come on over to bringyourworth.tv and subscribe there. Until tomorrow, with our last live of the month, I am so excited to give y'all this game. Until tomorrow, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves.